Are you a fan of classic African music? Well, we have just the thing for you. Coming soon to the Avocado Media Network is the Pan-African Party. The Pan-African Party is a weekly celebration of African music hosted by critics. Keep an eye on our Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram pages for more news. The Pan-African Party, celebrating African excellence.
This is an Avocado Media Network presentation. Disclaimer: You is intended for mature audiences. All stories depicted in this podcast are fictional, and any similarities to real people, places, or events are entirely coincidental. Or are they? You moved into your new place almost at the same time as your neighbors. To be exact, you moved in 3 days apart. For you, it was a chance to see the world, far away from the prying eyes of friends and family. Not that you hated them or anything. You just wanted to see the world for yourself. You don't know why your neighbors moved in 3 days later, but something about them made you believe that they too were venturing out into a new space in a new world. Maybe it was the way they giggled in the evenings. Through your walls, you could hear them run around the house like children, laughing as they went. Or maybe it was the way they walked to the nearby Kantemba hand in hand, oblivious to the world around them. Or maybe still, it was the way they came over to introduce themselves to you. The guy introduced himself as Lubinda. He was a graduate from the University of Zambia waiting for, what did he call it? A chance to be of service to his country. Natasha was his wife. Next to him, she didn't seem eager for much. She was 8 months pregnant at the time. After she gave birth, she was planning to return to medical school. Occasionally, as she spoke to you, she rubbed her belly and smiled to herself. And every time she smiled to herself, you smiled back. The perfect neighbors. Well, that's until the baby came. The first few nights you were able to contain it, but a week later the baby would not stop crying. It seemed like it cried all the time. Sometimes it would stop and let you drift off into sleep for what seemed like a moment. And then the nightmare would continue. 2 weeks later, you found a note under your door. It was Lubinda. He was apologizing for the noise the baby caused. At the end of his note, he invited you to the christening of the baby. But work was overwhelming. You hadn't got much rest the past few weeks. And so you missed it. One night in October, you woke up to go to the toilet and heard a sound you hadn't heard in a while. It was the sound of silence. You waited for a while, but the crying did not come. That night, you slept like a baby. And the next night, and the night after that. In fact, it took you 3 months to check on your neighbors. And when you did, you found the house empty. Your landlord eventually told you what happened. How one night the baby had suddenly spiked a fever. How Luvinda and his wife had tried to take the baby to the hospital but were ultimately too late. How the landlord had come home one day and found a note of thanks and an empty house. For a week, you couldn't sleep. The silence next door was too loud. Until one evening, during a rainstorm, you heard a familiar sound. Of course, there was no one next door. But that didn't stop you from hearing it nonetheless. At first you wanted to move, but a bigger fear caught you. What if the crying followed you? What then? So you stayed. Why did you stay in flat 9?
The Podcast You is voiced by Victor Muligisa and recorded and edited by Avocado Media. For similar content, subscribe to Avocado Media Zambia on YouTube and Patreon.
One, two, three, four. Early in the morning, I know you be there is coming my way.
Wake up, breakfast.
Please turn up the volume on your receiver as high as it can go.
Hey guys, my name is Beans.
Hey guys, my name is Coffee.
And I think there is no rational reason Wednesday should be spelt like that.
And I think that Chihuahua is very much overrated. It was probably never meant to be food. I don't know why you guys love it so much. Probably desperate times. This is all I'm saying.
Join Coffee and Beans, Sundays on the Avocado Media Network.